It's week 9, and for the Eagles, that means a matchup with their hated rival, the Dallas Cowboys. This is a big game for both teams, especially the Eagles, as this marks the beginning of their 6-game stretch against opponents that currently hold a combined winning percentage of 68. The Cowboys have some questions to answer as well, as they have faced just one team with a winning record and lost to them by 32 points. That's on top of losing to one of the worst teams in the league by 12 points earlier in the year. Outside of those two games though, they have dominated most of their opponents and are 4th in point differential so far this season. When looking at this offense, we have to start with Dak Prescott. For much of the offseason, Eagles fans had fun bringing up the amount of turnovers Dak has had over the past couple of seasons, but so far this year, he has done a better job of not turning the ball over. He has 5 interceptions through 7 games, and his interception rate of 2.3 is 17th out of 26 qualifying quarterbacks. Jalen is 27th for comparison. While he has made a couple of boneheaded decisions, 3 of those interceptions came in one game, and to date, he has his lowest turnover-worthy play rate of his career by a good amount, according to PFF. The Cowboys' offense in general has done a good job protecting the ball, as they are second in the NFL in turnovers with just 6. The Eagles are 24th with 13 total. That will be something to watch. While Dak isn't turning the ball over, he's not exactly going out there and lighting the world on fire. He has the 2nd best completion percentage in the NFL, but he's not being very aggressive with the ball. Dak has the 8th lowest average depth of throw, and he's 19th out of 34 qualifying quarterbacks in percent of passes thrown beyond 20 yards. The Cowboys' offense is just about average in regards to passing yards per game and yards per attempt. While Dak hasn't put the ball in harm's way as much, this offense isn't as aggressive as years past, but considering how well their defense has been playing, there hasn't been a need for more aggression just yet. There are some challenges when looking at the rest of the offense. This will be by far the best offensive line the Eagles have faced at this point in the season. They are a top 5 offensive line, and for an Eagles unit that relies so much on their defensive line, this will be one of their biggest challenges of the year. Zach Martin is the best guard of his era, and he's still playing like an all-pro at age 32. On the other side, Tyler Smith is looking like he's going to be one of the next great guards as well. He's strong, physical, and nasty to go along with great movement skills. He's a young player at only 22 and learning a new position, so he's not as consistent as Zach Martin, but he's playing at a high level regardless. For a team that has generated a lot of pressure from the interior, with Jalen Carter, Fletcher Cox, Jordan Davis, and Milton Williams, this will be a matchup to watch and will be the best interior group that the rookie Carter has faced in his career. At center, Tyler Biadasz is a weak link of the 3 interior linemen, but he's not a scrub by any means. At left tackle, Tyron Smith has been a multiple-time All-Pro, and though injuries have sapped some of his athleticism, he's still a very good player. Now, he's missed 3 games, including last week against the Rams, and did not practice on Wednesday, so that is something to watch. Josh Sweat will have a big matchup advantage if Tyron can't go. On the other side, Terrence Steele has been a good player for the Cowboys at right tackle throughout his career, and was just signed to a big contract this offseason. He has had some struggles to start the year, but he did tear his ACL in week 13 of last season, so he's likely working his way back into form. Still, if the line is fully healthy, the spots where the Eagles are most likely to get pressure from are against Biadasz and Steele. Don't be surprised to see the Eagles utilize pass rush packages that attack those spots. Overall, the Cowboys' offensive line is 5th lowest in pressure rate allowed. This will be a strength-on-strength matchup between the Cowboys' offensive line and Eagles' pass rush. When looking at the skill positions, the offense runs mainly through 2 people, CeeDee Lamb and Tony Pollard. In coverage, slowing down CeeDee will be a top priority. He accounts for 38% of the team's yards and 28% of the receptions. Dak has a quarterback rating of 132 when targeting CeeDee, with a rating of 87 when targeting everyone else. For comparison, Jalen has a quarterback rating of 121 when targeting AJ this season. Furthermore, of Dak's 5 interceptions, every single one has been when targeting a receiver other than CeeDee. Lamb is a great route runner, quick in and out of his breaks, tough at the point of catch, and dynamic with the ball in his hands. He keeps this offense moving more than any other skill player, and the Eagles have to make someone else beat them. CeeDee lines up all over the field, and I don't have any doubt in my mind that the Eagles will spend resources trying to slow him down. Sean Desai has already shown several ways that he will deal with top receivers. Against Cooper Kupp, when in cover 1, they would shade the hole defender to Kupp to help leverage any quick throws inside. Against Terry McLaurin, they used brackets in several different ways, and that led to big plays for the Eagles down the stretch last week. The same is true when the Eagles faced Tyreek Hill in week 7 and Justin Jefferson in week 2. When in zone coverage, I wouldn't be surprised to see the Eagles check into cover 6 or 8 when CeeDee is lined up out wide, so they can keep a deep safety over top of him with 2 to 3 defenders underneath for support. Desai has had little wrinkles for every team he's faced this year. He will have some for CeeDee as well. Dak spreads the ball around pretty evenly to the rest of the team, with Brandon Cooks, Michael Gallup, Jake Ferguson, and Tony Pollard all getting between 12 to 15% of the targets. Brandon Cooks has been a good player for several years, finishing with over 1,000 yards in 6 of his 9 seasons, despite playing with some bad quarterbacks over that time. But he hasn't been a huge part of this Dallas offense yet. Now, he's not someone they should sleep on because he's still a good player. The Cowboys will get creative trying to get their explosive wide receivers the ball. They are third in rushing attempts with their receivers. Their return specialist, Kevontae Turpin, has 6 carries for 66 yards this season, and the Eagles defense will need to be on alert for some trickery when he's on the field. Tony Pollard is featured heavily at running back, though his efficiency has taken a dip now that he's the bell cow in this backfield. He has 67% of the team's carries, though that's 74% when the Cowboys aren't winning by 21 or more. His 3.9 yards per carry ranked 40th among 75 qualifying running backs this season. He also has run 79% of the routes by running backs, and his 26 receptions is second on the team and 11th in the NFL among running backs. The Eagles defense is second in the NFL in ratio of pass targets to rush attempts for running backs, and considering the Cowboys' struggles running the ball so far this year, I wouldn't be shocked to see the Cowboys try to get Pollard involved a little more in the passing game this week. On the surface, the Cowboys' offense is run heavy, owning the 4th highest run-pass ratio in the NFL. However, in situations where the score is within 7 points, the Cowboys' run-pass ratio is 6th lowest. The Cowboys' offense isn't as run-heavy as it appears to be. Considering Vegas has the Eagles as 3-point favorites, some of the Cowboys' player props in the past game seem a little deflated. Switching to the defensive side of the ball, this is an impressive unit. It all starts with Micah Parsons up front. He has been one of the most disruptive pass rushers since entering the NFL, despite being primarily an off-ball linebacker in college. Now, in his 3rd season, he's really starting to put it all together, which is scary considering he was already a top 5 edge rusher coming into the season. Micah can win with speed around the edge or with power. He's playing in a 3-point stance a lot more, which I think has only helped improve his get-off. He's the Energizer Bunny at pass rusher, with a constant motor that allows him to fight through double teams and transition to secondary rushes when his first attempt gets stymied. He has a nasty inside counter move that has really turned into his go-to as pass blockers overset, trying not to get beat around the edge. The Cowboys line Micah up everywhere on the line of scrimmage to get him the best matchup. I would imagine he'll be over Jordan Mailata a lot, and that matchup will be one to watch, as Mailata has struggled with shifty guys that can bend the corner well and set up inside counters. We have to see if Cam Jurgens is back this week or if Sua Opeta gets the start. As Sua is starting, Micah will undoubtedly be lined up inside on most of their 3rd downs. So far this season, Micah is 3rd in pressure rate and 13th in sacks with 6. I don't want to wax poetic about Micah Parsons, as pretty much everyone is aware of how good he is, but you can't describe this Cowboys defense without talking about the impact Micah has on this entire defense. This defense would not be as close to where they are without him. He is such a game wrecker. Now, they have a couple other players along their defensive line that are no slouch either. DeMarcus Lawrence has been a stalwart for that defense for several years now. He creates a lot of negative plays for offenses in both the pass game and run game. Among all pass rushers, D-Law is 47th in pressure rate this season, according to Sports Info Solutions, while PFF has him at 10th at pass rush win rate. He has given Lane Johnson trouble in the past, and he will have an impact this game. They have another player that has stepped up for them along the defensive line as well. At defensive tackle, Osa Adigizua is a name to get familiar with. He's 46th in pressure rate and 18th in pass rush win rate among all pass rushers this year. He has good first step quickness and lateral agility for a defensive tackle. He is disruptive in both the pass and run game. He uses good strength, leverage, and hand placement that allows him to play bigger than his 280-pound frame would suggest. He is on the lighter end and can get moved some against double teams, which can be an issue against the left side of the Eagles' offensive line, but he plays with good effort to fight back into plays. Overall, he's had many more positive than negative plays for Dallas. Pressures are a very subjective stat, but the Cowboys rank 1st and 2nd in pressure rate from 2 different grading services. Like the Eagles, the Cowboys' pass rush is what sets their defense up for success. Their pass defense ranks well, as they are 4th in passing yards allowed a game and 3rd in lowest attempts against, despite having huge leads in several games. Part of this is due to the fact that the Cowboys had the 4th highest time of possession in the NFL. Their defense hasn't had to face many plays at all this season. Regardless, they are 3rd in completion percentage and 4th in interceptions. This year, the Cowboys are relying heavily on cover 1 and cover 3, running those coverages on over 70% of their plays. The Cowboys signed Stephon Gilmore in the offseason to pair with Trayvon Diggs. Gilmore has been okay, but he's not performing near the same level he was when he was a Defensive Player of the Year. Diggs' season was cut short due to a torn ACL, and in his place, Deron Bland stepped in to make some impact plays. He has 4 interceptions this season, with 3 going for touchdowns. Now, I would say 2 of his interceptions were due to terrible decisions or bad ball placement by the quarterback, and 1 was a result of being in the right place at the right time, but still, he's capitalized on mistakes when the offense presents them, and he's flashed in other occasions. Still, when I look at the film, I see a guy that can be thrown at. He's not exactly sticky in coverage and can get turned around quite a bit. For having 4 interceptions to start the year, his ball skills aren't particularly great. The Cowboys did double Cup on a few plays last week, but there are plenty of times where Dan Quinn will give A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith one-on-one opportunities. The Cowboys ran a lot more cover 2 last year, but that rate has been cut in half this year. It's still their 3rd most used coverage though, and I gotta imagine Quinn is gonna help out his corners and use more 2-high looks this week. Overall, when I watch the Cowboys pass defense, they have benefited greatly from beating up on bad passing attacks with terrible offensive lines to help disguise some of their coverage issues on the back end. The Cowboys are 3rd in completion percentage, but 19th in explosive rate. That number should be even higher, considering how many wide open receivers Justin Herbert missed against them. Teams run a shit ton of crossing routes against their high usage of man coverage and cover 3 blitz, which ends up matching up much like man coverage. This is the best offensive line the Cowboys have faced. The Eagles should have the opportunities for chunk gains. One other thing about their use of cover 1, they have allowed the 2nd highest scramble rate in the NFL. I know Jalen is dealing with a knee issue, and I doubt the Eagles will call many, if any, design quarterback runs this week, but there have still been several instances of Jalen scrambling and moving well enough over the past 2 games to create plays with his legs. I imagine the Cowboys will keep a spy on Jalen at some points, but they also have an above average blitz rate, which makes that hard to do consistently. The Cowboys' personnel usage is a bit unique as well. They use dime personnel in 54% of their plays, by far the highest rate in the league. They will use dime even against 12 personnel. Will they do that against the Eagles' rush attack? I'm not sure, but they rely on using extra defensive backs. They use nickel personnel on 38% of their plays. They have used base personnel on just 20 total plays this season. The amount of speed in the back end, no doubt, helps them limit explosive plays in the run game. They are 4th in explosive run rate, and that speed to get to the ball, along with the 2nd lowest missed tackle rate, has helped their run defense. In addition to that, Micah, Osa, and D-Law have helped this defense cause the 5th best stuff rate in the NFL. Still, they are 16th in yards per carry allowed, despite being 4th best in yards after contact and 5th in stuff rate. But the truth is, outside of their big 3 up front, the Cowboys' defensive line is not very good. They invested a 1st-round pick in Mozzie Smith, and while he has shown flashes, he's still going through the rookie adjustment period. Jonathan Hankins is a big guy at 320 pounds, but he isn't quick and gets reached easily. Neville Gallimore isn't anything to write home about, and Chauncey Golston is too light in stature and strength to be effective against the run. With how much dime personnel the Cowboys use, they often have a 205-pound safety playing in the box. You can get to the 2nd level and churn out consistent runs against this team. The 49ers and Cardinals made a living running the ball for 5 to 9 yards a gain all day in their matchup. The Eagles should be able to do the same. Furthermore, like I mentioned, the Cowboys will line up Micah all over the place. There's times that they have lined him up in a 3 technique over the guard or in a 3-point stance over the center on rundowns. The Eagles have shown this year that they will run on you if you put a lighter player inside, even if it's 3rd down. One last thing, we can't talk about this game without mentioning special teams. The Cowboys have one of the best special teams units and best returners in the NFL in Kevontae Turpin. He made some big plays against the Eagles last year as well, and though the Eagles' special teams are much improved so far this season, Turpin will make a big play if given the opportunity. Overall, while I think the Eagles do have advantages in many of their matchups, this is a rivalry game between 2 teams that know each other very well. The Cowboys have gotten the better of the Eagles for much of the games since Dak took over in 2016. It's also a big test for the Eagles as they have also just faced one team with a winning record so far this season. I think the Eagles can run the ball and hit chunk plays, and controlling the clock will help them against the Cowboys offense that has always seemed to be able to move the ball against the Eagles. The Cowboys aren't a very explosive offense right now, but they move the ball consistently, have protected Dak well this year, and haven't turned the ball over. If the Eagles win the turnover battle, then I see them winning this game. However, if they continue to be sloppy holding onto the ball, then this opportunistic defense will capitalize, and the Cowboys are too good of a team for the Eagles to keep getting away with that. Either way, this should be a good matchup that will have a big implication for the division race.